Matthew, Florence, Dorian, Isaias, Fred, Helene. Some of the storm names over the last decade that many North Carolinians will never forget. And now it's time to get ready for yet another hurricane season.
I've looked out on my front porch and seen it look like a wave coming.
Over the next hour, we'll look at the impacts of flooding and tornadoes.
The miracles that they performed to save lives.
We'll look at the fallout from federal budget cuts to the agencies that keep us safe.
This was the cottage, so I'm standing in what was the kitchen.
And we'll see how people and communities build back after tragedy. Thanks for joining us as we start yet another hurricane season. I'm meteorologist Leah Ringer. Often we think of getting ready for tropical systems at our coast. We've all seen, though, these are storms that can drastically change lives for any part of our state. That's why we start our special here in Chimney Rock, one of several communities around the mountains of western North Carolina that may have forever been changed by Helene. A little less than a year ago, multiple days of heavy rain, strong winds, and quick rising rivers led to a situation many people say they hadn't seen before. The severity of this storm also led to an unprecedented level of coordination between the National Weather Service and local emergency managers. Spectrum News 1 reporter Courtney Davis takes us to nearby Burt County for an inside look at the effort that likely saved countless lives.
Got debris coming down the field. I give it another 2.5 to 4 hours and it'll be in the road.
As the sun came up on September 27th, Chris White knew the creeks would be flooding. But he says actually seeing the damage brought by Helene was hard to comprehend.
The wind's blowing. We're getting 60-mile-per-hour gusts outside. You look outside, and walking outside's much different during this time, too, because the smells that hit you, the fresh pine that's been broken.
White is the assistant 911 director for Burt County.
There was some question about how much wind was going to get in here. We were pretty certain on the rainfall about how much was going to hit.
He worked hand in hand with people like Tricia Palmer from the National Weather Service in the Greenville-Spartanburg office to prepare.
We went ahead and did a live webinar for our partners Tuesday afternoon. And when we did that webinar, we were actually already saying that this was going to be a significant event.
Palmer has been with the National Weather Service forecasting storms for 25 years.
We use 48 hours of rainfall in our river forecasts. And the reason for this is because river forecasts have a lot of uncertainty in them. Once you add rainfall, it's not just for one river. You have all the tributaries, and then all that water has to be what we call routed downstream.
She says days before the storm hit, they knew, based on river forecasts, Helene wouldn't be good.
Those first river forecasts were coming out with major flood stage, and at one site, it was already a record, and that was at Blantyre. The French brought up Blantyre. For the first river forecast to come out encompassing the event and already have a record stage, that's a big deal. We were already using the word catastrophic.
Palmer says it's a word meteorologists tend to stray away from using.
By the time we said 1916, the old timers knew what we were talking about.
She says catastrophic was the only word they could think of to get the point across.
Towns were destroyed in 1916. And in telling emergency managers this is going to be like 1916, or in some cases worse than 1916. When you're having that conversation and you hear silence on the other end, and you know the deflation that they're going through, and the Lord give me strength, help me prepare my residents, my communities for what's going to happen, and then okay, we got to get to work.
Emergency coordinators like Chris White, who says they immediately started to warn people after they got the first alert from the National Weather Service.
We started preparing the day before, issuing those voluntary evacuations, getting that information out to those low-lying areas.
But when Helene arrived, so did the destruction. By 3 a.m. on the 27th, White says their swiftwater rescue teams were already busy near Lake James.
The water was still coming up, but also we had trees going down. And around 6 o'clock that morning, we started getting these calls of people trapped in their homes.
The mix of wind, water, and loose soil caused roads and infrastructure to wash away.
What our first responders did to save lives was so heroic. It was amazing. The miracles that they performed to save lives, to get people out of harm's way before the event and during the event. It was downright heroic.
Although their teams worked seamlessly together during the storm, Palmer says this storm has shown them the difficulties meteorologists will continue to face.
It's going to be impossible to reach everyone, whether it's because they don't know where to look, or whether it's because they choose not to look, or maybe it's because they're just looking at the little icon with a little raindrop.
It's why Palmer hopes the biggest lesson from Helene is to remind people to be prepared, take storms seriously, and always have backup means for communications, just in case.
Nobody thought that something like that would happen in 2024. And this is something that we've got social scientists trying to work on the problem. But in the end, we're gonna keep pushing forward, and we're gonna be continuing to try to reach people to let them know about hazardous weather events.
Courtney Davis, Spectrum News 1.
Thanks, Courtney. The National Weather Service's job of issuing watches and warnings may be more difficult this hurricane season amid budget cuts from the Trump administration. It has received permission to hire about 125 new meteorologists and specialists, but that comes after the agency lost more than 560 employees to early retirements, firing of probationary workers, and federal incentives for employees to leave government service. The understaffing and uncertainty could have massive impacts. Let's turn now to the coast, specifically the Outer Banks. This is a look at the Dare County Emergency Operations Center in Manteo, where we caught up with emergency manager Drew Pearson earlier this year. He says data from the NWS is vital to his severe weather operations.
The National Weather Service is a public safety agency, just like emergency managers are, just like law enforcement is. They're a key element to keeping people and property safe, and they're the unsung heroes at times.
We reached out to NOAA to ask if recent cuts and retirements at the National Weather Service will affect forecast operations this hurricane season. A spokesperson responded with, quote, "Per long-standing practice, we are not discussing internal personnel and management matters. NOAA remains dedicated to its mission, providing timely information, research, and resources that serve the American public and ensure our nation's environmental and economic resilience," end quote. Thanks for staying with us as we help you prepare for hurricane season. I'm back in Chimney Rock. The devastating impacts Helene had here just last year, still visible, like many other parts of western North Carolina. The wind and the rain these storms bring can be life-changing for any part of North Carolina. Lumberton, located in our state sandhills, is another place that knows that all too well. Hurricane Matthew hit the region in 2016, bringing over a foot of rain. Then, just less than 2 years later, Hurricane Florence hit, dropping over 1.5 feet. These storms causing millions of dollars in damage and leaving folks homeless. They also left behind a fear of storms. Spectrum News 1 reporter David Ivey covered both hurricanes when they hit Lumberton. He recently returned to Robeson County, where he found when there's news of potential bad weather, folks in the area get worried.
Well, if it starts raining a lot, you get to thinking about how much that river's going to come up, and it will come up.
Harold Russ has endured awful flooding. His home is close to the Lumber River. Hurricane Matthew hit Lumberton in October of 2016. The floodwaters gushed to just below this air conditioner at his house.
It was bad. It just a lot of water, and we got some help. We had to go stay in the motel for a month or so.
With help from FEMA, he was able to rebuild. And then, 2 years later, Hurricane Florence hit. His home was flooded again. And this time, he says he was unable to get any assistance from FEMA and had to rebuild on his own.
So I took the money and redone it again. So just to put the sheetrock back in cost me $2,000.
you will find similar stories in Lumberton. Neighborhoods once full of life, now with empty and boarded up houses. An elementary school that used to have the sounds of children, now a shell with nothing. For the people who endured this devastation, emotional scars remain. Anytime there's word of potential bad weather, people like Crystal Norton, who will never forget all the flooding, get nervous.
I looked out on my front porch and seen it looked like a wave coming, and I got scared and I just left. I get nervous and I'm asking questions, are we going to have to go through what we went through? We're going to have all the water or whatever. But yeah, it's frightening. You'll never forget it.
A fear of bad weather that never goes away.
If I hear it raining a lot especially a whole day, it scares me to death.
David Ivey, Spectrum News 1.
In less than a decade, we've had several historic floods in North Carolina. Matthew, Florence, and now Helene. Names many will never forget. Also, just last year, a weak system that was not named produced a record amount of rain in Carolina Beach and in nearby Brunswick County. As our climate warms, storms are picking up more moisture and producing even heavier rain. For a closer look at this troubling trend and more on how we can be better prepared, let's bring in more of our Weather on the One's meteorologists. Hi, guys.
Hi, Lee. I'm Chief Meteorologist Jeff Croman. I'm joined today by Noel Ream and Meteorologist Matthew East. And, the storm's devastating across North Carolina. We continue to see the effects from Helene. We've seen the effects of what has happened down along the through Lumberton and Fair Bluff region and coastal North Carolina. And Matthew, these are really efficient systems in terms of the amount of precipitation they can bring inland and across an area.
Yeah, that's something we have continued to see more and more of in recent years, it seems, with heavy rain producing systems. And it's not, one size fits all. We talked in that previous package about Matthew and about Florence, two very different track of systems, one coming in from the east, one coming up from the south, and then of course Helene coming in from the Gulf of Mexico. But a common theme is we're seeing a lot of water vapor in the air with all these systems, and they are becoming very, very efficient at producing heavy rain rates and sometimes multiple days of heavy rain events. And so that is a recurring theme we're seeing.
Well, yeah, and Noel, there are other factors that are in play with kind of really wringing these systems out as they come in. We have a diverse landscape across North Carolina, right, and some of the effects we saw devastatingly so with Helene last year.
Yeah, so first and foremost, one of the more important things to note here is we have these synoptic features, right? These fronts that continue to move in. We still have fronts that move in between, May, June, July, August. And we also deal with high pressure systems, low pressure systems, depending on exactly where they are set up in relation to the tropical cyclone, whether it be a tropical storm or a hurricane. And that could allow these systems to stall out. Now, unfortunately, our nature of where we are in the lower 48, a lot of these systems kind of pose a high flood risk in the mountain zone and across the state. It can be from west all the way up towards the east, up into the coast. Now, for the mountains specifically, we have this thing called orographic lift. And if you are moving to the mountains or anywhere, let's say west of 77 outside of the Charlotte metro, the thing that you really have to take into account is we have the orographic lift that helps to enhance the rainfall rates, and
we kind of call it wringing out the sponge a little bit exactly. As it goes up. Yeah,
and it takes a while for that to occur.
Yeah, and I think one of the most insidious side effects, of course, as we've seen, is the flooding that takes place. And it's important for people to understand that there are differences in the type of insurance that's available out there.
Sure.
You have to get flood insurance through the federal government.
Right.
And your regular homeowner's insurance, for example, may not cover the type of flooding that you see with rivers and creeks and other areas.
Need to check the specifics of your policy for sure. There's been a lot of unfortunate circumstances surrounding that. And I think a consistent theme we've also seen is, with these landfalling systems, we are painfully aware now here in North Carolina that it's not a coastal thing, it's not an inland thing, it's kind of a statewide threat whenever one of these systems comes in. So as far as insurance is concerned, even well inland, check your policy and check those floodplains.
So far, we've talked a lot about inland flooding, much like the catastrophic flooding that devastated Chimney Rock, where I'm standing right now. There's another threat these storms can bring, whether you live at the coast or well inland, and that's tornadoes. Spectrum News 1 reporter Patrick Thomas tells us how Helene produced a particularly strong tornado and Rocky Mount.
Thank you, Lee. The EF3 tornado devastated parts of the Tiffany Square shopping center that you can see right behind me. A shop owner who offers specially designed garments and clothing for women battling breast cancer found herself in a different kind of battle, one to keep her shop open.
Feels good to be home.
Keisha Justice cannot wait to open this workspace for the second time.
We've been moving a few things in.
Justice owns Pretty Essentials Women's Boutique, a store for women on their breast cancer journey to find a fashionable yet comfortable new look.
Make them feel pretty again. Women who are regaining themselves back again, and it happens right here in this room.
This businesswoman is ready to offer that feeling again. An EF3 tornado spun up by Helene. The damage from the twister shut down her store. And she shared this video with us showing what she saw once the winds died down.
I was in the store and I was servicing a patient. They were signing in and we were preparing to go back for a fitting. And I just kept hearing things hit the window. The sounds of being afraid, the dark clouds, the heavy rain.
Good afternoon. Welcome back to the Weather on the One's Forecast Center.
I explore the frequency of strong tornadoes related to tropical systems with Spectrum News 1 meteorologist Vernon Turner. And I've been looking at how tornadoes seem to be forming more and more out of tropical storm systems. With your expertise, what are you seeing?
There's still no rhyme or reason, still too small of a sample size to say for certain what is the reason for the uptick in tornadic activity with tropical systems.
It appears as if the right or east side, as it relates to winds and damage, can be the strongest. What can you tell me about that?
Yes, it's the northeast quadrant is the strongest side of any tropical system. We call that the dirty side of the tropical system. You have a lot of wind energy and other dynamics. So not only are you worried about the stronger winds, you're worried about more favorable chance for tornadoes.
We can count at least 3 EF3 tornadoes forming out of tropical storms in North Carolina within the past 5 years, including one in Lucama as Debbie roared through the area last year, and the other in Bertie County in 2020 from Hurricane Isaias. Using records from the National Weather Service, there are 6 tropical tornadoes produced by Helene in North Carolina alone. The worst of them hit parts of the Tiffany Square strip mall in Rocky Mount. Here's some more stats from the National Weather Service. 185 tornadoes resulted from tropical cyclones in 2024. Of those, 6 were EF3 tornadoes, which surpasses the 5 EF3s in the prior 29-year period from 1995 to 2023.
The more chances you have with tornadoes, there's a higher chance that one of those tornadoes may be a strong one.
It has definitely been a journey.
Justice is finding the beauty in this current battle.
The beauty in that battle is what I would say is rejuvenation.
She tells me reopening will feel like a tribute to why she started the business. Her mother, Lisa Justice Hickman, who died of breast cancer in 2008.
With that, the legacy that I'm continuing with her is the force and the power that helps me get through the toughest times, such as Hurricane Helene, and recovering from those type of things.
Welcome back to our second half hour of preparing for storm season 2025. I'm meteorologist Leah Ringer. We're now in Swannanoa, another community in western North Carolina still working to rebuild after Helene hit last year. And yet another example of how tropical systems can impact any part of our state. Those devastating impacts are happening more frequently. I also recently spent time along our coast, where some folks are concerned about what that means for an area their family has called home for centuries.
It's in danger of changing rapidly.
Chris Yeomans is talking about a unique section of the North Carolina coast his family has called home for generations.
The Yeomans family left Bristol, England, and they showed up here and they said, this is it. Yeah. And I can see why.
He'll tell you this part of Carteret County, known as Down East, is more than just a place on the map. He describes it as a feeling.
Living close to the water, close to the edge.
Life here has always been affected by storms.
1899, my family at Shackford Banks had to move because of a hurricane. My family moved to Harkers Island, and they've lived there ever since.
The impact storms bring to these Down East communities are happening more frequently.
We're standing here in Marshallburg, and you look around and there's, dead trees that after Florence didn't come back like they usually do.
And now threats occur here even when there are no storms.
We have, roads here that will flood just on a sunny day.
It's part of the reason community members have formed the Down East Resilience Network. They're working with researchers like those of the UNC Institute of Marine Sciences in Morehead City.
That high tide that we may see on a king tide that didn't cause flooding 50 years ago now may be putting water onto Front Street of many of our coastal communities.
Professor Rick Lutek says it's just one result of sea level rise and our warming world.
We're now having storms that not only may cause storm surge and blow water onto shore from either the coastal ocean or from our sounds and estuaries, but also higher rates of precipitation.
Yeomans hopes his community can better prepare for these rapid changes. Otherwise, he fears future generations may not be able to call this special place home.
It may not happen here in my lifetime, but that's something that my daughter may have to face.
There are so many ways hurricanes can devastate our communities. Along the coast, it's not just flooding from rain, but also storm surge flooding that can be catastrophic. Let's bring in more of the Weather on the Ones team to continue our discussion of storm surge. What is it? How can we prepare for it? And how is it becoming more dangerous in our warming world?
Thanks for that, Lee. I'm Chief Meteorologist Gary Stevenson. Joining me right now, Tom Miners, Chris Thompson, and Vernon Turner. We're going to discuss more about storm surge and how they could impact you. And Tom's going to lead off with some statistical information about storm surges in North Carolina.
Yeah, I love the beach. It's such a beautiful place and a beautiful part of why people move to North Carolina. But the beach can be a dangerous place to live where the water meets the land. We had just 6 homes fall into the Atlantic Ocean last year, many along the Outer Banks, and not just because of storm surge, but because of beach erosion from non-tropical systems. But storm surge has had a notable history in the state, including Hurricane Hazel back in 1954, producing 18 feet of storm surge in Calabash and Brunswick County. Then we had even Floyd back in 1999, producing 15 feet of storm surge in Long Beach. We had storms also even like Fran back in 96, producing 12 feet of storm surge in North Topsail. Even recently, storms like Dorian producing storm surge in Ocracoke that kept people stranded in their homes. A very dangerous aspect, so something people need to know more about.
Yeah, and a lot of people think storm surge is instant flooding of the coastline, similar to a tsunami, but that's not storm surge. It's kind of like being hunted by a turtle. It's the slow movement of water onto land, and there's several factors that go into storm surge, including the storm size, the motion, the angles coming into the coastline, the angle of the coastline as well. Also, the tide, high or low tide, can impact how that storm surge comes in and impacts that coastal area. And all those factors come together and can create a very dangerous situation because it's gradual, it's not instant. So a lot of folks may see the water receding going out and think, oh my God, this is incredible, let me go look at it. But you're in danger, and of course the time to prepare for storm surge is not necessarily when the water's coming in, but today.
Now have a plan. That's the big thing. You want to have a plan. You've got to take all your particular situation into account. Do you have pets? Where are you going to go with your pets? A lot of the centers will not allow you to bring pets in, so where are you going to go? Make sure you have a list of your meds and they're up to date and you have enough of them in case you have to be away from your home, and make sure your car is in good shape and ready to go. But big thing, just look at the whole picture, have that plan, so when it's time you don't have to think, you can just do it.
I'm back in Swannanoa, where the recovery effort from last hurricane season in Helene is still underway. Like much of western North Carolina, all as a new hurricane season begins. Helene caused significant loss here, just as the region was about to welcome guests for fall. Spectrum News 1 meteorologist Tom Miners shows us how impacts were felt from the high country to the river valley.
Up here, the weather can change in a moment.
The Pisgah Inn sits right on the Blue Ridge Parkway, where owner Bruce O'Connell has hosted friends and families for 47 years.
Closed due to the storm, we figured we would reopen as soon as the weather cleared.
But he's never seen anything like this.
When the weather cleared, the area had been destroyed.
Closing for October, their busiest month of the season.
A kitchen full of food, a gift shop full of shirts, and a store full of souvenirs.
Would mean closing until the spring, since the Blue Ridge Parkway closes during the winter.
We were ready for the busiest month of the season, so that was tough.
Just like the view on a foggy day,
it's going to be tough. I don't think you want to get your cameras all wet.
Bruce says there is some uncertainty with what lies ahead.
For me, after all the time I've been here, it is just fun to adapt.
And Bruce has handled many challenges, including how to find employees who will stay with him. He has 90% returning from last year.
Well, I house 45 employees on the property, and I think that gives me a little bit of an advantage.
But another challenge came right before opening day. He got a call about a wildfire that had broken out just a few miles away.
The Park Service has closed the parkway at the Pisgah Inn, and they've ordered us to evacuate the employees that were already on property living here.
In spite of the hazards from landslides to lockdowns,
this is a grab and go.
Bruce remains hopeful about the future.
This place is just so special, so unique, and so great, it will always come back.
For many in the high country, it was the widespread wind damage from Helene that left them completely cut off. But for some others in the valleys, it was the flooding that took everything.
This was the cottage, so I'm standing in what was the kitchen.
Before Helene, Nick and Kavita Hardy had run the Silo Inn for 3 years, but the inn itself has been in the community since the 70s.
It's meant a lot of things to a lot of different people over the years. We have a lot of folks that were coming back year after year after year.
With wide windows to let the light in, the view of the South Toe River was always blocked by the bushes and trees until Helene moved in.
Our family evacuated at about 9 o'clock on Friday morning in the middle of the storm as water had covered this and was starting to seep into the building, which both served as the inn and our personal home.
Leaving that morning, not knowing what they would be coming back to, was hard enough, but staying together as a family was what helped them make it to safety.
Our 5-year-old was singing in the middle of the hurricane as we were evacuating, and I think, she didn't fully understand what's going on, but, even there's moments where she wants to move back here and she's like, oh, I wish we could just build our kitchen back upstairs and so that we could live back in our home.
This was our dining hall and foyer.
Each day comes with new challenges for the Hardy family as they process each day together. Is this the water line?
Yep, you can see that water line, exactly.
Wow. And sometimes hoping that the storm had never come is all they can do.
I spent a lot of those first days just going in the room and acting like I was going to change it over and that guests were coming that afternoon because it was a little bit of solace.
The Hardy family has been pursuing federally funded assistance, but so far that has proved challenging.
Trying to figure out if that's a way that we'll have support, but at the moment that hasn't happened.
Tom Miners, Spectrum News 1.
From here in the mountains to along our coast and anywhere in between, we must now prepare for another hurricane season. Whether it's flooding from rain, destructive winds, tornadoes, or storm surge, the Spectrum News 1 and Weather on the One's team will be here to guide you through the season. You can find our tropical updates at 21 minutes past every hour and anytime on SpectrumLocalNews.com and the Spectrum News app. If after seeing our special you still have questions about hurricanes and how to prepare, our team is also here for you. You can find a link to ask your questions in the storm season section of our website or app. Thank you for watching. Our commitment to you this hurricane season, we will remain your calm in the storm.